Today, we are privileged to have Elizabeth Seeley with us talking about what we're doing in the Innovation Lab. Elizabeth, welcome. Why don't you
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm, as Dave said, Elizabeth Seeley. I'm a program leader here at Blue Slate, and my specific role is really the business delivery leader. And in that role, I do project management. I lead the project management practice. I also lead the business analysis practice and quality. I've been here for 8 years, or 7 to 8 years now, and have worked around many different industries and in many different roles, and it's just been a very exciting time here at Blue Slate.
And what's your role specifically in the Innovation Lab project?
In the Innovation Lab project, I am specifically the Scrum Master.
Okay, so why don't you start us off there? Tell us about this overall project methodology that's being used in the lab and why it was chosen.
Yeah, so in the Innovation Lab, we are using an agile approach, specifically Scrum. And the reason why we picked that methodology is because of the whole notion of innovation. In innovation, there's a lot that you want to learn from your failures and not just your successes. And it's this notion that it's okay to fail, but fail fast. And what that means is to go around your boundaries, test your boundaries, and you might fail and you're going to fail, but it's from those failures that you're also going to learn. And that's what innovation is all about, is constraining those boundaries or going outside of those boundaries. Also, we're using Agile is because for those of you who are familiar with Agile, there's this Agile manifesto. And one of the tenets in Agile is to create projects around very motivated team members, give them the support and structure that they need, and then trust that they are going to do what they need to do. And that's exactly what we wanted to do in this lab, is solicit volunteers of who would want to work in this lab. We've gotten a lot of response from volunteers, very motivated individuals. We built this room and gave them the structure to work in, and really are giving them the accountability to go out and do what they need to do.
Cool. So what are some of the benefits in general about using Scrum?
Right. So from the outside world and from those of us who are very familiar with a waterfall, the typical waterfall approach, Scrum might seem messy and it might seem disorganized. But really, the benefits from Scrum is that you have constant collaboration, you have discipline, and you have accountability. And so the communication part is that the team members are communicating on an ongoing basis throughout the project, and they're responsible for their certain tasks, but they're dependent on the other team members. So there needs to be constant communication and collaboration. The discipline part is that the team members are accountable. At the end of the day, they're the ones that are accountable for their work. And so there's discipline in terms of making sure that they have what they need and they're getting their job done, and updating each other on what that progress is.
Nice. So what is the basic Scrum framework that you're using for each sprint?
So the basic Scrum framework, and for those of you who are familiar with Scrum, we're following that same framework that you read about, wherever you read about Scrum. So we have the standard ceremonies. So we start off our sprints by a planning session. From that planning session, then we have our daily Scrum. And then once we finish up the sprint, we then will have a demo, and then from that demo, we also have a post-mortem. So to kind of back up, we have, as a team, have said that we want 10-day sprints. We want to be able to demo faster to our users, or have more demos, I should say, to our end users, and be able to break up our sprints into a shorter fashion. So we have 10-day sprints, and the sprints will start off with a planning session. And in that planning session, what we do is we look at our backlog stories and think of those stories as kind of your high-level requirements. and we will agree upon, as each team member will commit to, how much capacity they have in that 10 days. So they will look out to those 10 days and say, for these 10 days, I have 20 hours to work on this sprint. And that will then allow them to understand how much work or how many stories they can then pull in and own during that sprint time. And that's really what you're doing in the sprint planning session, is looking at your stories, understanding what the priority of those stories are, pulling those into the next 10 days, and then agreeing upon as a team, and the team then takes ownerships of those stories and estimate out those stories. So that's your planning session. We then have a daily scrum. And our daily scrum happens every day, currently at 8:15 in the morning. It's 15 minutes, and it follows the same tenets as any other daily scrum does. Each person will talk about what did I work on, what am I going to work on, and if I have any blocks or if I have any issues. Having a dispersed team, since we are a consulting company and during the week we're very dispersed throughout our client sites, that daily scrum becomes really important because it's a way for all the team members to collaborate and communicate and just get updated on what everyone's doing. In that daily scrum, I, as the scrum master, my main role in that daily scrum is just facilitation. The team members are not communicating to me. They shouldn't be communicating directly to me or reporting to me. They're communicating with one another, and I just facilitate to make sure that we stay within our time block. But more importantly, if they have issues and if they have blocks that they're not able to finish up their task, it's me who will then try to get their blocks unblocked. What we don't want our team doing is wasting time trying to fix things where I can be helping and collaborating with that. So that's really my role in that daily scrum and what the team does in the daily scrum. During the sprint, we will also may have a backlog grooming session, and what those would be is maybe an extended scrum that we would look at our backlog of stories and start trying to kind of pre-plan for what we want in that next sprint. So it takes place before that planning session, but it makes that planning session go a lot faster, and it gives people time to think about what's in the backlog and what they should be considering to move into that next sprint. And then we end that sprint usually on the 10th day, doing a demo. So we will demo out all of our stories, what we finalize. In that demo, we will invite not only our Scrum team, but also our advisory group. We do have an advisory group that we report out to, and that we will not only report out to, but we might reach to if we need things from them. And then after that, after the demo, we will then have a post-mortem. And in our group, we're very open and honest, and we have to be in this and say what worked well, what didn't work, what do we want to change, and we will change. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. We'll change it again. That's what Agile is all about, and that's another reason why we wanted 10 days, so that we can fine-tune, change, and be very agile through this whole process. So that's really the framework that we're following. We're currently in Sprint 4, and it's been working very well.
Well, thanks. So you talked about the fact that you've got to keep track of a backlog, you've got user stories. So you have to keep track of all that information, the tasks associated with them. Now, you've been using a spreadsheet to date as you wait for a tool.
Yes.
What tool is it you plan on using, and why was that tool chosen?
Yeah, so as we were just stating, yes, so currently we are using an Excel spreadsheet, but it was only kind of a stopgap until we got a tool. And we are going to be using a tool called Jira. And the benefits of Jira, or of specifically Jira, but a lot of other tools, is to have that online collaboration. Because again, one of the tenets of Scrum is that the people own their own work. The team members own their own work and really should be managing their own work. And having this online collaboration, it's not the Scrum Master who has to go and update task and so forth. It's the team members that go in daily and update their own tasks. But it also has allows a different level of visibility too, so everyone can go in and see it in real time. What our burn down chart even looks like, and a burn down chart will show how well we're doing in the sprint. And so not only our Scrum team can go in and look at how much we're accomplishing and if we're on track, but our advisory group could too. So it really becomes very very easy to use, but it also gives a whole nother level of visibility.
Nice. Now, in reality, each of the folks working in the lab, each of the team members has a full-time job. Mm-hmm. So tell me what's the dynamic like? How's that work?
Yeah, so whenever anyone asks me what's the best thing I like about Blue Slate, I honestly can say it's the people here. The people here at Blue Slate, they are not like anyone else or a group of people that I've worked with at any other place. They are very dedicated. They want to go above and beyond, and they really want to learn. And so it's this team that wants to go above and not only be better for themselves, but be better for their clients. And so having this dispersed team, they don't want to just be working on the task at hand. They want to make themselves better employees, not only for themselves, but to go out and be better employees and better consultants for our clients, and to be able to come up with what I would say world-class solutions. And so this dispersed team, even though we're at client sites throughout the week, it's a way for us to, as a group, to be working on how to improve our solutions going out into our client site.
Nice. It's got to be fun for the team as well.
It's very fun.
So why did you decide? You talked about Scrum, but you're a Scrum Master, not a project manager. In your mind, is there a difference?
Yes, absolutely. So the last thing that this team needs is a project manager. This team is probably one of the brightest teams I've ever worked with, and we need to allow them to go out and test their boundaries and take accountability. And a lot of times what you see, which isn't bad depending on the project, is the project manager is the one that tells the team, these are the tasks you need to work on. What the Scrum Master does is gives that support to the team and trusts that the team's going to do what they need to do. And the Scrum Master is the one, like I was previously talking about, is allow the team to do what they need to do and remove all the boundaries. And so I'm not out there telling the team, you need to be working on these tasks. The team is telling me what tasks they need to be working on, and they're the ones that collaborate and say, these are the things that we need to be working on, and this is how long it's going to take me. And we're trusting each other that we're going to complete all of that, and it's the Scrum Master who really helps facilitate that and make sure that we're staying within the boundaries of Scrum, but allowing the team to do what they need to do.
Okay. I'd like to switch gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have a significant background in healthcare, working in healthcare businesses, so it's a little hard to believe that you're constrained to just being a Scrum Master.
Yeah.
What else are you doing in the lab
Right.
as a part of the team?
Right. Like any consultant at Blue Slate, we don't just have one role, which that's what makes it very exciting to work with this group of people. So some of my roles within this Cognitive Corporation Lab is, yes, Scrum Master, but I am also acting as a subject matter expertise in the healthcare space. So one thing that we are really focused on is the medical review part, and I have extensive knowledge in medical review. So I'm out there teaching some of our team members who may not have experience in medical review how medical review and claim adjudication works. And so it's really becomes this learning process. Also, as we do in our projects, we have quality reviews and making sure, for instance, that the types of business requirements that we need to have are at the level that they need to be at, and just having that quality review. So I will also be acting as a reviewer throughout this process, and also playing a BA throughout the process when needed too. So
Nice. Now, the initial focus of the lab is really to explore the cognitive corporation framework and apply it to healthcare payers, as you've talked about, things like medical review. What benefits do you see in the near term likely to come out of that work?
Right. So in this cognitive corporation lab, what we're building is the typical architectural framework that you see at any client site. But what we're augmenting that framework with is the non-typical components that you see, such as predictive analytics and semantics. And what we're proving out is how the predictive analytics would then inform your business rules, and how semantics will be more agile as you tie into your data integrations. And it's that whole holistic view and the whole integration of all of that will then become really that smarter BPM. And it's being able to perfect, hone in on that will become a better solution for our clients.
Exciting. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Look forward to hearing more about what's happening in the lab.
Great, thank you.